Please turn your camera if you are worried about paying for college. Please turn your camera if you are a Generation 1 student, meaning that your parents have not obtained a bachelor's degree.
Applying to college could be a very nerve-wracking experience, especially for me since I am a first-generation college student. It was difficult trying to navigate my way through the application process and how to apply for FAFSA. Luckily, my high school helped me with the application process, and FSU had many resources that helped me apply for FAFSA and what type of loans to take. Throughout the whole process, I was doubting myself. I didn't know if I belonged, I didn't know if I would have been able to handle it, and I didn't know if I still wanted to go. I did decide that I wanted to go not only for me, but for my hardworking mother who wasn't able to, and for my younger sister to have someone to look up to. The first couple weeks was so hard for me. I was lost. I didn't know what to expect at all, especially since I didn't get any stories or perspective from my mom. But luckily, after a few weeks, I finally found my Framily through Generation 1, a program that helps college students navigate their way through college and creates connections between professors, other peers, and faculty members who are also Generation 1. Through Generation 1, I finally felt like I was part of the community. I was finally part of the FSU community at large. It was eye-opening to find out that there was professors, there was peers, and other faculty members who are all there to help me succeed. We're also Generation 1. Finally, I decided why I did come to FSU, why I chose to come to FSU, and that I did belong at FSU.
Please turn on your camera if you've been compared to others. Please turn on your camera if your background has influenced your story.
My whole life has always been about adapting to new and diverse environment after immigrating from Haiti to the US. When I first moved here, I knew close to nothing regarding the culture, language, food, etc. Now, a decade since residing, it has become my home away from home. This experience has allowed me to fall in love with the beauty of learning other countries' cultures and languages. In high school, I was fortunate enough to volunteer in Thailand for 6 weeks, where I learned a new language, try new foods, and visit beautiful temples. This spring semester, I studied abroad in England, and although it was disrupted due to COVID-19, I still had an amazing experience. I learned so much valuable information both in and out of the classroom. I cannot wait for my next travel adventure, whenever that may be. I encourage you to explore this beautiful planet that we live in and expose yourself to something new and different. Yes, change can be scary and unpredictable, but it can also be worthwhile and fun.
Please turn on your camera if you didn't think you would succeed in college. Please turn on your camera if you have grown through challenging times.
This past semester was supposed to be the best 4 months of my life. I was finally fulfilling my dream of studying abroad. All those months of planning and saving had finally paid off. On January 19th, I got on a plane by myself and flew across the Atlantic to begin my semester-long program in Sevilla, Spain, and it was everything that I dreamed it would be. I got to meet so many amazing people. I was learning Spanish faster than I was ever able to in the United States, and I finally got to travel to Northern Africa like I wanted to. Everything was perfect until the pandemic happened. 2 months into my program, we were all instructed to return to the United States while we still could. I never even got to say goodbye to my professors and resident directors. Completely disillusioned, I returned to the United States, only it wasn't the same country that I left back in January. I went from having the freedom to travel from country to country with friends, to being told to self-isolate at home for months on end. So it's safe to say that my study abroad experience did not go the way that I planned. But if someone had walked up to me as I was about to board my flight back in January and warned me of what was to come, deep down I know that I still would have gotten on that plane, because I wouldn't trade those memories that I made during my 2 months abroad for anything. And I wouldn't want anyone to forego an opportunity to study abroad in the future out of fear. I believe that if more people studied abroad, the world would be a better place. More people would realize that language barriers are just bridges in disguise. More people would recognize how important it is to step into their roles as global citizens. If you have an opportunity to study abroad in the future, I urge you to take it, because living without taking any risks is living with regret. Please turn on your camera if you went through something you didn't think you could come back from. Please turn on your camera if you learned to put yourself first.
My whole life, I've lived with a workaholic dad who strongly believed that success came from always being productive. And as a child, I very quickly picked up on his workaholic habits. As an 8-year-old, I began to fill my schedule with extracurricular activities. And the older I got, it started to become harder and harder to keep up with school, theater, dance, choir, debate team, and a job. When I started college, my desire for productivity did not go away. I found myself running off of caffeine and no sleep. And as I started my sophomore year, I grew more and more tired every day. As someone who was so used to running off empty, I had no idea why I was so exhausted. I was only taking 3 classes and only 2 were labs, and I was also stage managing the communication arts department show and tech directing a musical, while also being in a play and having an on-campus and off-campus job. I really wasn't that busy. And the worst part is that every time I try to take a break, I panic and feel horrible about myself. In my mind, if I wasn't doing something, I wasn't doing enough. And if I wasn't doing enough, then I was a failure. Towards the end of the fall semester, I found myself having constant headaches and exhaustion. My appetite was non-existent. I slowly started despising my friends and family, not paying attention and performing well in both my jobs, and finding it very hard to focus in class. I did not realize it at the time, but I was experiencing major burnout. And for those who don't know, burnout is defined as a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. And burnout usually occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. Looking back now, there is no possible way I could have kept going the way I was without experiencing burnout. I was constantly overworking myself, thinking it was doing me good, when in reality, I was harming myself. That semester, I spent my 20th birthday stage managing a 12-hour rehearsal. And although I should have taken the day off, my willingness to be at that 12-hour rehearsal resulted in the best thing that ever happened to me. I met someone who taught me that taking a break is okay. And that winter break, I took a lot of breaks. And I learned that if you're not being productive, that is okay. And when I started my spring semester, I still had that itch to fill up my schedule. But I now have someone who encourages me to take time for myself. And regarding my workaholic dad, it turns out that I was so busy working that I never realized that as much as he worked, he always made time for himself. And making time for myself is the greatest thing I ever learned in college.
Please turn on your camera if you are involved in multiple ways at FSU. Please turn on your camera if you are still trying to own your stories.
Coming into Framily University, I always knew what I wanted and I had my eyes on the goal. I looked only at my future and I overlooked me. In the past year, I faced a lot of loss, hurt, and failures, and almost got to the point of giving up on myself and my dreams. Pretending that these problems did not exist was me denying myself. The problems of being female, being young, being black, and being an international student. I've known that by telling our stories, we touch the humanity in all of us and embrace every part of us that makes us unique without any expectations of praise or joy or pity. I've always denied my facts, and I stumbled upon a saying lately which says that by denying the story, we deny ourselves. And when we own the story, we can write a brave new beginning. And right now, I'm working towards rewriting my story and owning it proudly, walking into loving myself unconditionally.
Please turn on your camera if you have made a difference in the FSU community.